Hello, favorite people. How are we all doing? Hope we're doing very, very well this evening. If this is your first time coming to my YouTube channel, you are very, very, very welcome. Please kindly subscribe, like, share, and comment. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so very much for always stopping by. Like, you make creating video content motivating. Thank you so very much. So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to make this beautiful Bubu dress that is trending. Well, these are the materials that will be required for that purpose. We have Kampala fabric, then we have a half yard of Dolphy sateen, our measurement, our tape, our scissors, and our chalk. Without further ado, who is as excited as I am? Let us get right into it. I'm going to be working on my Kampala fabric. Now, the length of my client's long gown length is 58, and I'm going to be needing about say 60 inches. I'll need like 2 inches to fold downwards. So it's 60 inches. This is 60 inches here. So I'm going to be folding that into two for the front and for the back. So this is 60 inches. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to cut. I measured that 60 inches into two. That is to say I'll be needing 60 inches length for the front and 60 inches length for the back. I'm going to cut that out and take away the one that I'll be needing for this project. After I was done separating them, I went ahead to lay this on my cutting table, right? Often as possible, you want to check to be sure that all the fabrics are laid out evenly and not some parts having excess fabric or the other, right? So this is what I'm doing. Let me turn it this way, right? So it's a Bubu dress, like I said earlier, so there is not going to be any zipper. It's just a free Bubu dress. Okay, so I went ahead to insert my shoulder plus sleeve measurement. My shoulder measurement is 14, which is 7 here. Well, I'm going to be needing 18 inches, so that we'll have some to hem and all of that, right? Our neckline measurement, we'll be using 3.5 by 1 for the back and 3.5 by 3.5 for the front. But because the front and the back is folded together, we'll just mark out that of the back. Then later we'll take out the back to cut out for the front, right? Then from this shoulder slope, we come on this sleeve opening, we come down by 1 inch for our shoulder slope, right? And then on the sleeve opening, 9.5 inch. She's actually on the small size, so I don't want to exhaust all this so that she doesn't look lost inside the dress. So from this place, we'll be measuring um 11 inches for her shoulder too, right? Then we take this piece all the way down, right? Like I said, you have to check in between intervals to be sure that these closed places, you don't have any, the fabric on in the middle is reaching the end of it, right? So now I'm just going to curve this. I'm just going to curve this from here. I'm going to take this all the way down. So this is 34 inches. So we're doing 17, marking 34 inches. So we are marking this all the way down. Right? And that is it. I'm just going to go ahead to start cutting this. So I'm actually cutting like 1 inch away from the line I marked. So that will serve as our sewing allowance. Okay. And now go ahead to cut open my neckline. So that's 1 inch. And then from this piece, I'll go ahead and okay. So that is that for the back. I'm going to just take one of these out to cut for the front. So I want to ensure that both edges are laying evenly and one side is not longer than the other. So the next thing I want to do now is to take my neckline depth. So here is 1 inch. So from this piece I come down by 3.5. I create a box first so that it will help me. It will also serve as a guide for me. And then I'm going to cut this out. Right? So you see? But it is not actually a circle. I'm going to be coming down from here by say 7 inch. Then I'll go ahead and connect that into a straight line. Good. And there you go. Our dress is almost ready. It's just for us to go to a sewing machine and do the necessary things that need to be cut out, the joinings. All right. So here you go. So for the design in front, I measured 11 inches by 10.5 inches. Yes, this was what I was going to use to place, the style has the V-neck design, more like a placket V neckline, and then the other design square like that had a slant on it. So that was what I went ahead to do. I cut it out. I measured that out and to ensure that they were even, and then I went ahead and cut it out, right? So I went ahead to cut that out with my scissors, and then I trimmed off this phrase on the sides of the doll face, you understand, so it could help me get straight lines. All right, so this was what I did, and after I was done, I went ahead to fold in about 0.5 inches all around. But before then, the square design had a slant by the side, so I went ahead to measure. Sorry, during shooting I didn't position my camera properly, so this part wasn't okay. This part wasn't captured like in its entirety. So I measured about 3.5 inches on one side, and then about 3.5 inch on the other side. That was what I did. I just marked those points and then folded alongside to get that slant on one of the edges of the square. I hope you understand. So that was what I just did. I went ahead and notched the part and then folded accordingly. So I had to fold it, then I used my hand to keep the both ends in place so I could cut appropriately. And then when I was done, this is what it looked like, right? The next thing I wanted to do was to use hemming gum to attach on the edges of this doll face piece so that it will be held in place, and then I don't have to start struggling while trying to attach it on my fabric. Okay, this was me using my pins and my hemming gum to gently secure all the edges in place. I just took some hemming gum, folded it in, used my pins. Like I said earlier, pins are the tailor's best friend. So if you want to get precision, to get that accuracy, you can never go wrong using pins. So here it is after ironing. That's what it looks like. Now the next thing I did was to cut out the V neckline placket I was going to attach on my outfit. So the first thing I needed to do was to trim out those edges that were not straight, and then I went ahead to measure about 4 inches for both, 4 inches, and there was going to be a joining at the center back. So this is me gently cutting out the part that is not going to be required for this, and then I went ahead to measure my 4 inch. All right. So this is just a long strip of fabric, as long as it can go around the neckline. So I just went ahead and trimmed off the part that was not required. So the next thing I did was to go to my sewing machine and bring the front and the back pieces to join them together. I'm going to be starting off by joining them at the shoulder area. I'm going to be starting off by joining them at the shoulder area. So I started sewing the shoulder area at 0.5 inches for both the left part and for the right part. And after I was done, this was what it looked like, looking so beautiful. So I'm just going to take that to my ironing machine and I'm going to give it a good press, ironing the seams open. So the next thing I want to do was to join the strip of fabric that will be used on the neckline, the one I cut at 4 inches. I'm going to be joining them at the sides at 0.5 inches. And after I was done ironing, I now folded it into two and used a pin to secure it in place. But prior to that, I had to trim off every excess that was not required. I didn't want it to have any bulk around the neck area. So this is me folding it into two, after which I pinned them so that I could attach it to the neckline of my outfit. So I went ahead and matched the joint part on the strip of fabric to the center back. I did so by folding the outfit into two, ensuring that the both shoulder lines aligned, and then I used a pin to secure it in place, and I started sewing at 0.5 inches. I took my time to do this so that I don't make any mistakes. So after I was done joining all of these from the back to the front for both the left and the right sides, this is what it looked like. You can see how beautiful it is. So after I was done, I cross-checked, and then of course there was excess of the strip. I just had to cut it out from the neck like by say 1.5 inches. And then the next thing I did, it's a V-neck, so I went ahead to mark out the place where I had already sewn so that it can help me make accurate notches. So I just chalked the seams where I had sewn and then went ahead to use my scissors to make a notch towards that part I had sewn, like you can see me do now. I made it. I cut up to the seam, but I didn't cut through the seam. I cut to the seam, but I didn't cut through, because if you cut through, the parts will loosen up, right? So I notched that, and then it allowed the neckline to lay flat in, and then I tucked it in to the wrong side, like you can see me do. I properly took my time to do this so that I don't have any parts squeezing on the outfit. I did that gently, and then when I was done, I used a pin to secure it in place so I could stitch at the wrong side. As you can see what I am doing, I flipped it over and then I used a pin to secure it, and then went ahead to my sewing machine and secured that part with a good stitch. I stitched it in place so that it doesn't loosen out as a result of trying to wear the outfit. So after I was done stitching this V neck line in place, I went ahead to use my scissors to cut off every excess that wasn't required. I didn't want it to have any bulk in front. And then the next thing you want to do at this point is to go and use a serging machine or a weaving machine, as whichever way you call it, to just finish up that neckline so that it doesn't fray. Outfits that fray easily, by often using them and washing them, they tend to loosen out. So you don't want that to happen. So at this juncture, even though I didn't do that in this video at the time when I was shooting this, but I advise that you serge at this point before you proceed to the next level.
So the next thing I wanted to do now was to bring my piece of fabric, the one we had ironed, hemming gum on, the center design. I now placed it in front of this fabric, properly aligning, ensuring that I had it evenly distributed at the center. All right, so this was what I did, and then I went ahead to start stitching.
You see, one of the importance of ironing and using pins, it helps you to keep your whatever you're working on in place, and then it helps you also to ease the process so that the process is not difficult or you have to struggle to sew and all of that. So that was what I did. I just went ahead and started sewing, and then when I'm sewing, I sewed at the edge of the fabric. I did that gently, and when I reached the tip, I ensured that my needle was inside the fabric before I started sewing. I did that gently until I was done sewing, and then I went ahead and cut off the threads so that I don't have any thread dangling on my outfit. Of course, you know that's an unprofessional thing to do, right?
So I want you to note that while you are sewing, you just want to be sure that your fabric is tilted to the right direction. What I mean is, probably in the process of trying to put your pins, you discover that your center design is not aligning well. You check that as you sew. So there you go, I'm done sewing, and I went ahead to, of course, like I said, trim off every thread dangling on the fabric, and then removed the pins I had used to secure the centerpiece design to the fabric. And then I went ahead now to join the sides. We're almost through. Like I said, this is one of the simplest, easiest tutorials you can get online, you know. I went ahead and secured the sides at 1 inch from top to bottom for the left and for the right sides, depending on the amount of allowance you had left though. So I went ahead to stitch mine at 1 inch, did the same thing for the other side, and then when I was done, I used my scissors to trim off the excess that was dangling at the hem area. I discovered that when I sewed, one part was longer than the other. That's not a cause to worry. You just use your scissors to trim that off to ensure that you have the same length for the front and for the back pieces. So this is what I did now, and I went ahead now to hem the down part of the fabric, as you can see me do. I did that at 1.5 inch, and then I sewed at the tip. Sorry guys, I have a thing for good finishing. If it's not properly done, like, I don't feel good about it, right? So I went ahead and sewed that at the tip, and the outcome was beautiful, right? So this is what it looked like. And I also went ahead to hem the sleeve part, but there's a little trick to this sleeve part because it has a curve underneath the arm. I had to notch it in order to allow it lay flat whilst I'm sewing on the sewing machine. Okay, this was what I did. I did it for the both sleeves, and when I was done, this was what it looked like. So this is the neck part, right? You know, I told you guys earlier that when I was doing this earlier, I didn't serge it. So I eventually went to serge it, even though I had to loosen up some part of the center design I had done earlier, but it was necessary, I had to. And this is what it looks like. Isn't this looking beautiful already? OMG. Guys, I cannot wait to see your designs. Like, you know, that rich auntie vibes. Like, this is the kind of, you know, vibe this kind of dress gives, you know, and look fabulous in it. I cannot wait to see your designs. Well, what do you think? Isn't this looking so beautiful? Da-da-da, ba-da-da. OMG. Do you see how the seams are laying so beautiful? Oh my god. Thank you so much guys for watching. See you in my next video.